Hello, today we are going to be looking at embedding an Articulate storyline design into an Articulate Rise build to make it look seamless as we're going through the course. So this is a communication skills course that I have designed in Articulate Rise, and I've created bespoke assets for this build. There's been custom color schemes, fonts, and intentional curves and lines in the design. That is consistent on every single slide. So we start off with our image full width banner. So I'm going to go into preview mode so you can see what it looks like as a full build. So we have our banner up the top and a statement to start. These graphics that I'm using here are from a website called Lord Icon, and Lord Icon is a really awesome icon library where you can download custom assets for your build. You can add your corporate style guide colors in there, and you can download it either as a static GIF or an animated GIF like this. It can be one solid color, two solid colors, or in this case, we're using a gradient to go with our intended theme. I find images like this add a little bit of animation, a little bit of movement to otherwise static content, and the clients really seem to love that bit of action. So if we move down here now, we have a embedded video that has been placed in, and I think it's very important to always have instruction at the top of any interaction, not assuming that the learner knows what to do, what to click, how to interact with it. This has been encased in a divider or a joiner, I like to call them. So this is a graphic up top that joins to a colored background embedded video, and then we have a graphic at the bottom as well. Intentionally, we have used curved bespoke masked images to match with the overall look and feel and angular lines that have been part of the brand styling. Using these dividers are fantastic for interactions such as an accordion, which can otherwise look like floating boxes on a white background. So again, we are using an instruction at the top telling the learner what to do for each of the accordion titles, and it's encased again in a divider or a joiner block. Adding these continue buttons are really important after an interaction. You can either have them locked or unlocked, but it's a really nice way to break up the content on the page because it is a vertical scroll e-learning. So down here, I have now embedded my Storyline 360. This is a really great way to add something bespoke and unique for a client in Articulate Rise that is not something that they would see or do themselves in an Articulate Rise build. So I've designed this previously in Storyline 360 using the same color scheme, the same look and feel that the client would like. It opens up directly as you enter that section or that block in the Rise build, and it works in an interactive way as if you were doing a storyline on its own. So rather than displaying this in an accordion or in a labeled graphic or any of the custom, mandatory sort of built-in things that are in Articulate Rise, this is a nice way to sort of break that up. So I've got this as a hovered overlay, and then as you click on each of the buttons, an animated bit of text comes up. Now with Articulate storyline builds, you can do anything. They're very, very bespoke. So you can have this background integrate if it was already a colored background. You can match that up so they sync, they look like they're meant to be together and that it was part of the Rise build in the beginning. What you can also do is add tracking. So when you have exported this from Storyline and published it to your account, you can add tracking on there, so that way it will report to the LMS when this SCORM in this Rise has also been built. So if it is a mandatory interaction or a quiz or a drag and drop, then that is one way for you to make sure that that tracking reports back to the LMS where it's being hosted. What I would suggest with something like this is having a locked button underneath it, which only opens up once the interaction has been completed. You can work with triggers in Storyline to make sure that that all lines up too. that is how you embed your storyline into Rise. Now, if I go back into edit mode, we can see how this has all been built in Rise bit by bit. So up top, I've added an image full width. These are ones that I've previously designed in Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, but you can use Canva, Affinity Designer. You can use a lot of other programs to create that. And depending on how wide and high you would like that banner to be, you can make it custom. It takes a little bit of trial and error depending on the style of your design, because what you really want it to do is to fit in tablet format and also in mobile form. So I mentioned that these are from Lord Icons, so these are just placed in as a normal GIF image. With all of your images, just making sure that you have an alt tag. Rise has this as an automatic thing, but I'm in the habit of still putting the quotation marks in there, so it skips over it. However, if this was a infographic or a really important image that you wanted the learner who was using an e-reader to understand, then you could write your caption, or in your alt tag you write a more detailed description there. You can also add audio to it if you want it to read out something to the learner. And this is just placed in as an animated GIF. So to create these joiners up the top, so what I would suggest you do is you place in your video or your embedded video that you wanted and have the background as a solid color. That is then going to blend up to the next top part, which is text, and the next top part, which is the image centered, and then the one above that is where the custom graphic goes. Again, I've created this in Adobe Illustrator, and this has been placed in so it sits up the top. To make this really butt up perfectly on there, you need to make sure that you have the bottom padding is at 0. So that way there's no white gap there at all. This is in preview mode, so it will always show the space where a caption goes, which we won't need. This is how it would look down the bottom here. So obviously it's the same, but instead the top has 0 padding. We have our buttons here. We have our accordion, so we're using the same. What I like to do as well is that you can make these into a custom block, so you don't have to recreate them every single time. You can have an accordion block or just a joiner block with a placeholder interaction in there that you replace. So this is where our storyline is placed in, and it's just a storyline file that has been placed in from what you have published. You have to have the same Articulate account for it to be talking to each other. For this to actually show up as an option to embed, you need to make sure you're publishing it from the same account. So if a client gives you a storyline that's previously designed, you'll need to open it up in your own Articulate account, publish it so you can see it in Rise, and then you can place it directly in there. It does not automatically update if you are making changes to the storyline file due to edits or feedback from the client. So you need to make sure you then re-embed it in there so the updated has been placed in. And that is how you work with Articulate Storyline in Rise. I'm going to be doing a couple more videos that are more detailed, making bespoke custom drag and drops, which you can either have as a storyline file on its own, or you can place it into Rise just like I have shown here. If you have any questions, let me know, put it in the comments. I'm happy to share any templates with you. Let me know what you all think.